ahead. Make my day.
Hello, and nice to have you with us for another edition of Movie Time. And would you believe it, there's a mermaid on the loose in Splash, which is proving one of the big comedy hits this summer. Her name is Madison, and she's played by the delectable Daryl Hannah. We've just seen her discovering the identity and indeed the whereabouts of the man of her dreams, who's portrayed by Tom Hanks, lucky guy. And what happens to him and her after she's swum ashore at the Statue of Liberty results in some very funny situations. Now, later on in the programme, I'll be talking to Tom Hanks, who shows the kind of comedic talent that made Jack Lemmon a star. And we'll also be looking at the work of another interesting screen prospect, Rupert Everett, in Another Country, a compelling and very well-made drama set in a public school in the 30s. But first, Beat Street, which follows hot on the heels of that other breakdancing hit, Breakdance. Beat Street, produced by Harry Belafonte, who is a musical legend in his own right, is a much better all-round production, highlighting the hip-hop craze born on the streets of New York's South Bronx. Take a look at this.
Yo, chill out, man. I hear something. Let's do the right thing. Let's serve these dudes, man.
Fight this dance, suicide. Fight this dance, suicide. The battle cry, street drums.
No way.
You see, I know what in store. Because I'm headed for a dancing war.
Yo, come on.
Battle cry, battle cry. Street drums, speed drums, street drums, speed drums, street drums. Battle cry.
To put the record straight, Beat Street was made before breakdance, and so it's authentically the first major film to be produced about the breakdancing phenomenon. Belafonte also supervised the music with Streetwise Records chief Arthur Baker, and it involved some of the great names of this particular scene: the Rocksteady Breakers, the Magnificent Force, and the New York City Breakers. Major contributions were also made by Africa Bambaataa and Jazzy J, a couple of leading lights in the hip-hop revolution. Well, on now to Another Country, the film version of Julian Mitchell's play about the hypocrisies and double standards of life within the hallowed walls of the exclusive public boarding school back in the 1930s. Rupert Everett plays Guy Bennett, who turns out to be a traitor to his country by spying for the Russians, while his best friend, Tommy Judd, played by Colin Firth, personifies the young idealist turned on by the works of Marx and Lenin. Well, here are the two of them discussing the relative merits of cricket in a capitalistic society.
You know, what I really hate about cricket is it's such a damn good game.
Judd's paradox. Of course, cricket is a fundamental part of the capitalist conspiracy.
Of course.
One only has to observe the sylvan scene. There's the proletariat forced to labor in the field while the bourgeoisie indulges in the pleasures of batting and bowling. Quite. I mean, there's every reason to suppose that the game ultimately derives from the wholly unjustified right of the medieval lord to the unpaid labor of villeins and serfs at haymaking and harvest.
You know, you're really beginning to get the idea.
Thanks. Hey! Ah, there he is at school shop. Isn't he awesome, Tommy?
Drawing attention to yourself again. He's not even waving back.
Of course it's not.
You should learn from his discretion.
Oh, if only I could.
Guy Bennett is infatuated with a young boy from another house named James Harcourt. Although the school officially frowns upon homosexuality, it nevertheless permeates at every level. Two rules prevail. One is to accept that this could be but a passing phase in an all-male establishment, and two, on no account must the participants be caught. The shame of being found out has led to one young boy, Martineau, hanging himself in the chapel. In the meantime, Bennett's affair with the impressionable Harcourt begins to seriously jeopardize his ambitions to become a god, the name given to members of the school's ruling elite, and he pays the price for protecting his young lover. Guy faces Tommy Judd with some disturbing and inner-felt truths about himself.
I don't understand. Why didn't you just use the blackmail again?
Because?
Because what?
Because if I'd gone to the housemaster, it'd have all come out about James.
So what?
We'd have both been expelled.
Lucky you.
I couldn't do that. I love him.
Oh, come on, Guy.
Look, I'm not going to pretend anymore. I'm sick of pretending. You think it's all a joke, well, it's not. I am never going to love women.
Don't be ridiculous.
Martin knew that about himself when he was 10. He told me.
You can't possibly know a thing like that at 10 or now.
Yes, you can. Look, it doesn't come as any great revelation. It's like admitting to yourself something you've always known. Owning up to yourself, it's a great relief in some ways.
You can't trust intuitions like that.
Oh, well, what else is there? Are you a communist because you read Karl Marx? No. You read Karl Marx because you know you are a communist.
Well, I'm very sorry.
Thanks, if that's how friends react.
I'm sorry. You're quite right. That was patronizing and unforgivable.
You couldn't help it, could you? Because in your heart of hearts, like Berkeley and Delahaye and Fowler and Miggs, you still believe. In spite of your talk of equality and fraternity, you still believe. Some people are better than others because of the way they make love. Well, think of that for a lifetime. Think of the names. Pansy, Nancy, Fairy, Fruit, Brown Nose. Look, this hurts like hell. I'm going to walk it off. Coming?
A disenchantment with the system and its traditions ultimately leads Guy Bennett along the same path Guy Burgess took. In fact, the film draws a close parallel between Julian Mitchell's fictional Guy and the real-life counterpart, presenting a possible reason for the dramatic consequences both are to experience in later life. Another Country has been admirably directed by Marek Kaniewska, who makes his feature debut as a director after some fine work in television. Rupert Everett shows great acting promise, although in another new release, Real Life, he's not nearly as good or as convincing. And now on to another interesting newcomer to movies, Tom Hanks, who gets his biggest international break so far in Splash. But before I talk to Tom, let's see him in one of the film's earlier sequences. He's just been rescued from drowning by a rather mysterious blonde. What he doesn't know is that she's a mermaid. Well, who would? Oh, and just in case you're wondering how a mermaid with a gold tail suddenly finds she has legs on dry land, well, let's put it down to a screenwriter's license. A mermaid with a shapely pair of legs. Well, why not? Anything's possible in this fun movie. As the great Alfred Hitchcock would say, logic is dull. So it was a point I took up with Tom Hanks during his recent visit to London.
Well, they told me right off the bat that I was going to have to learn how to scuba dive, which to me was like saying, oh, you're going to have to learn how to hang glide, or, you know, we're going to throw you out of a plane, you're going to have to land by having this little, you know, sheet up above you that will break your fall. It was one of the great achievements of modern technology is that it can now fly like a bird and swim like a fish, and I'd always wanted to do one of either. So I was going to do swimming like a fish. We underwent all the process of becoming a certified scuba diver in California, which was something of a preparation for when we actually started shooting in the Bahamas. But it's a difference between going down with all of the gear as opposed to just going down in a suit or a tuxedo or a lab coat like I do in this movie. And you know, learn how to hold your breath for a long period of time and see in that blurry haze that was the Caribbean. But it's a great way to work. A job in the Bahamas, I'll take that too.
Your director, Ron Howard, has said some very flattering things in the media about you being another budding Jack Lemmon or James Stewart.
I think it's very high praise, and I think it would be really a substantial goal to achieve and to shoot for. I think that Jack Lemmon had incredible variety in his career. At the same time, he was doing movies like, you know, essentially silly little comedies like I don't know, Under the Yum Yum Tree and The Landlord and stuff like that. He was also doing Days of Wine and Roses and The Fortune Cookie. Incredible performances. And very witty, always bringing along this a degree of wit, but at the same time being very, I think, worldly wise. And of course, James Stewart, well, I mean, you know, the man is one of the immortals, for crying out loud. So, oh, yeah, that's not bad. I'll take that, sure.
One of the more pleasurable aspects of working on this film was meeting Daryl Hannah. How did you first meet her?
I met her when we were first getting together for rehearsals of the film. And it's always difficult to meet somebody that you know you're going to be going through something of this hellacious shooting period with, and as well as we're going to have to be doing quite a bit of, you know, romantic scenes together. And
I wonder if we could talk about John Candy now.
If we must, okay, let's talk about him. Yes, John is marvelous. I was a huge fan of his because he is an American series known as Second City TV, which I had been watching since I was in college, I guess. So he was really like one of the gods as far as I was concerned, and he is not unlike his persona in the film.
Oh God, my heart's beating like a rabbit. You want a beer? No thanks. This. You're not in love with her. How come these little things she does drive you crazy so much, huh?
Little things? Buddy, the woman learned how to speak English in a single afternoon.
She could probably speak English already. I think she was in shock from being arrested, you know?
Well, now what about that, huh? What about a woman showing up naked in a public place, Freddie?
Well, I'm for it, of course. But you yourself said that she had some kind of, what, immigration problem? She's on an ocean liner in the middle of international waters. And she sees America, looks good. So she greases her body up like a channel swimmer. She dives in. She goes through some sharks, has some heavy trouble there. Goes through the Coast Guard, through some minefields, and then she's on shore. She's okay, see?
Well, what about the bathtub and this moon stuff? And what about all those TVs?
Now, look, I'm being serious. I've had a few minor fiascos in my own love life, and I admit that freely.
Freddie, you took a date to one of your own weddings.
I'm a free spirit. I'm extremely liberal. I'm a freewheeling dude. You know what your problem is? You're in love with this girl, and you're trying to convince yourself you're not.
I just don't know, Freddie. It's just something about it isn't right.
I'll serve. You hold a beer, that'll be your handicap.
Oh, we're gonna play?
Yeah. I'm gonna teach you a lesson in humility.
All right, wait.
Humility 101. You all set?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yes, it's a very funny and enjoyable piece of romantic escapism, and directed, incidentally, by Ron Howard, who is best remembered as Henry Winkler's co-star in the Happy Days television series. And as a film director, I can see many more happy days ahead for Mr. Howard. He appears to have a bright future behind the camera and comfortably seated in the director's chair. Of course, screen mermaids are not exactly an innovation, because back in 1947, Glynis Johns had a considerable success with Miranda, which spawned a sequel titled Mad About Men some years later. So, might we perhaps get a sequel to Splash? Sequels are still proving to be very big business. Coming to London later this month are those intrepid space voyagers of the Starship Enterprise, back for their third big-screen adventure, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. And Mr. Spock himself, Leonard Nimoy, directs the film, which in America has taken more money than either of its two predecessors. Another major Hollywood star making her name behind the cameras is Goldie Hawn. She's currently filming Protocol, as well as being its executive producer. Protocol has a screenplay by Buck Henry. The director is Herbert Ross. Goldie has also been signed to produce and star in Honky Tonk Sue. Kurt Russell, recently seen in Silkwood opposite Meryl Streep and Cher, has been in Florida filming The Mean Season. And John Frankenheimer is now directing The Holcroft Covenant with James Caan, Anthony Andrews and Victoria Tennant, who's currently to be seen in Stranger's Kiss. The Holcroft Covenant is based on a Robert Ludlum novel. Another of his books, The Osterman Weekend, is the basis for Sam Peckinpah's latest picture, now on view with Rutger Hauer, John Hurt and Burt Lancaster. And also in the cast is the Canadian-born Helen Shaver, who also happens to star as a desperate mother in our film on Sky Channel tomorrow night, Coming Out Alive. When her crippled son is kidnapped by her ex-husband, she hires the services of a tough mercenary soldier, played by Scott Hylands, to help her find him. Well, Movie Time is having a break next week to make way for a special film presentation that we thought you might like to see on how special effects are created in the cinema. Titled A Master of Illusion, the film will feature the work of Albert Whitlock, who has become a legend amongst the Hollywood film community, and we shall see him at work on such films as The Hindenburg, Bound for Glory, and Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1. But we'll be back in a fortnight's time. Until then, I'll leave you with a scene from tomorrow night's big movie, Coming Out Alive. Goodbye now.
Where the hell have you been? Don't you ever do that to me again. You worked for me, you remember that?
Tell me about Nicky.
What?
Was he born with that condition?
Yes.
How do you feel about it?
I'm his mother.
About his father? You love him?
I'm not to take him. Doesn't make sense.
It makes sense. I don't think Kirkwood had an accident. I think your husband kills for a living. I think he's on a job right now. There'll be 3 heads of state here next week. I think Gateway's after one of them. And somehow, I'm afraid your son is a part of it. He needs Nicky. Why? How far would he go?
We gotta go to the police.
No, you don't. If they find out, their objective will be to stop Gateway at any expense, including your son. Puts us at rather cross purposes, I'm afraid.
Okay. So what are we gonna do? We don't even know where he is.
I'll find him.